So last year we went to Alabama and we built a moon buggy, but it was completely different from this one. It didn't do too well in the actual course. A weld broke on the front pedals. It was like right around here. So we couldn't compete the second day. So the next day we were brainstorming ideas of what to do for next year, and we found that simplicity is the best way to go. So we just added just a straight bar across, so it can fold a lot easier now. It's a whole lot simpler than it was the year before, and I think it's completely different basically, except for the suspension system, right? This suspension system. So Lars basically and Mr. Sheridan basically designed this whole thing. So go for it, Lars.
Okay, you ready for me? Okay. Actually, this project started. He started working on this, Mr. Sheridan, about what was it? 2 years, 3 years ago? About 3 years ago, and the original class that worked on it, I wasn't in the original class, she wasn't in the original class, tried to come up with a unique design for it. That's typically what most teams do. And they came up with a slalom design. They actually had steering in the front and the back. So not only could the back turn like this, but the front could also turn too. Last year's moon buggy sat about this high off the ground. Completely different seating, completely different everything. Was a lot of aluminum parts this year. You can, if you can tell from the camera, a lot of this is steel. We changed the size of the wheels. We've changed to just rear steering now. We got disc brakes, if you can see the brakes down here. We got new shock absorbers. We actually just got a new pack of shock absorbers in for the back too. So what we did end up keeping, yes, is the suspension system that we designed last year. Last year was the first year that me and Mary worked on it. We made this suspension system, which is this plate down, and that's the only thing. That is the only component of this entire moon buggy this year that we kept from last year. The idea, it's a McPherson suspension. No, I'm sorry, it's a oh, what's it called? What's the type of system? Double wishbone suspension system. Yeah. Yeah, and we actually manufactured our own differentials. I don't know if I have. You want to go grab me a differential? Yeah. We actually manufacture our own differentials. This allows the two tires to turn opposite directions. If you can see that, well, is it locked out right now? The two wheels can turn different directions if you see me rolling one wheel faster than the other right now. The idea of that is so you can go around a curve. Most steering systems either have a differential in them, or they have what's called, it's basically a rod with a spring inside of it, and it just rotates like that. But we actually manufactured our own. We made our own gears within it. Here's one of our gears. These took about 6 hours a piece to make. We started out with a big hunkin' block of brass, and we cut these out ourselves. So about 6 hours to make. We ended up making 8 of them, so it took about 48 hours worth of cutting and all that to make these. Yeah, that's the moon buggy in a nutshell. It's a pretty cool project. We're really excited about this year. We've done quite a bit better, I think, on this moon buggy than we did last year. Obviously, we've had a lot to work with. Any other major changes I haven't mentioned? We changed the size of the wheels. We went from 24-inch wheels to 28-inch wheels, 29-inch wheels. The gearing is single speed now. We do not have a gear shifter anymore. We talked about having a gear shifter, but last year's gear shifter actually didn't have enough gearing in it to be productive for us. So now we just have single speed, and what we still need to change is the size of that gear up there. We have a 1-to-1 ratio on that gear, and we would like it to be a 2-to-1 ratio. The disc brakes I think are awesome. The braking this year is a lot better because it's a hand brake now instead of a foot brake. And I think the shock absorbers might be the most helpful thing that we've changed this year. This is the old shock absorber that we had last year. These are rock solid. Mary, you want to jump up and down on the moon buggy for me real quick? That's about how much bounce you get out of those. Now you want to stand on this plate up here and bounce up and down on it. I don't know how well they can see it. Stand on the back of the seat. Go ahead and bounce up and down. Notice the difference. These are getting, from Mary, who doesn't really weigh that much compared to you. Yeah, she was getting, maybe an inch or two on the front, while on the back she was getting a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch, doing exactly the same thing. So these shocks have been very helpful. When we're driving around practicing it, we float right over the curves on the front end, and then when we get to the back end, we kind of get stuck a little bit, and we have to push because the suspension isn't as strong in the back.
Another cool thing about it is NASA doesn't just say build a moon buggy, something that can go over the course. They also give you constraints, and tasks that you have to do, like the original Moonbuggy had to do. So it has to fit in a 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot cube. So it can fold in the center, and it folds up and it collapses basically over itself, so it can fit in the cube. And then also you have to have like seat belts for safety constraints, and then you have to add things on it like a simulated radio, a monitor. Back here is kind of, this is an example of like some of the batteries we need. Just stuff like that you have to put on it. It needs fenders as well. But it's pretty cool that NASA like challenges you to do the same things that the astronauts had to fix and stuff.
So that way, we can pull this thing. Ooh boy. That's like that. Back it up. We're still rusty. We're still working on the driving part of it. Here we go. It does turn pretty well. Again, it's just a little shaky.